Turkish troops have now launched a ground offensive in northern Syria hours after its warplanes and artillery began hitting territory held by Kurdish-led forces.
Let's go live now to the US President Donald Trump speaking on Syria as we speak.
Both sides, and we're seeing what can be made out of a situation. But we have no soldiers in the area. We're getting out of the endless wars. We have to do it. And eventually somebody was going to have to make the decision. And frankly, we're getting a lot of praise from that decision. People are saying, gotta sometime bring our people back home. We're really serving, and we were serving as a police force. We had defeated ISIS. We defeated the caliphate 100%. Erdogan and the existing groups of people, including Kurds. But you have the PKK, which is a natural enemy with Turkey, and likewise and opposite. They've been fighting again for many, many years. Their bitter enemies have been always, probably, possibly, always will be. So we are out of there. We've been out of there for a while. No soldiers whatsoever. We are taking some of the most dangerous ISIS fighters out. We've taken them out, and we're putting them in different locations where it's secure. In addition, the Kurds are watching, and if the Kurds don't watch, then Turkey's going to watch, because they don't want those people out any more than we do. But we have taken a certain number of ISIS fighters that are particularly bad, and we've wanted to make sure that nothing happened with them with respect to getting out. And I think we're doing a great job. I think the people of this country, I campaigned on ending the endless wars. We're all over the world fighting wars. Half the places, nobody even knows what they're doing over there. And I feel that we are doing the right thing, and I think the country feels that too. We've had tremendous support outside of the Little Washington area, and even in Washington, people are saying you're doing the right thing. Has to be done, otherwise you're never going to do it. At the same time, we're dealing with both sides. We're going to see what we can do.
In a statement this morning, you cautioned Erdogan. Since then, it appears as though there have been casualties on the Kurdish side. Are you concerned about escalation, and are you concerned that Erdogan will try to wipe out the Kurds? I will wipe out his economy if that happens. I've already done it once with Pastor Brunson. I'm sure that I hope that he will act rationally. You do have to understand they've been fighting each other for many, many decades. Actually, for centuries, they've been fighting each other. And it was time for the Americans. We did a great job. We took care of ISIS. We captured 100%. You remember I was thinking, John, of leaving at 97 and 96%, and that last 3 or 4% was the hardest part. And they told me it would take 1 year to 2 years to do it, and I did it in a month. Remember that? I flew to Iraq, and I met with a lot of great generals there, great generals. They said, sir, we can do it in 2 weeks to a month. And we did it in 2 weeks to a month, and we took it. And in the meantime, we've been watching over a lot with the Kurds, watching over a lot of prisoners, some very bad people. A few in particular very bad, really bad. And some of those people we've already taken. We've taken them out. They should go back, by the way. They should go back to Europe. Many of them came from Europe, but they should go back to Germany, to France, I spoke with Boris Johnson, a couple to UK, some to UK, actually, but they came from various parts of Europe. They didn't come from our country, and we did them a big favor, and we said to France, we said to Germany, we said to various countries in Europe, we'd like you to take your people back. Well, we don't want them, we don't want them. How about you taking them? I said, we don't want them either. Nobody wants them. They're bad, but somebody has to watch over them. I said, look, we did you a big favor. You take your people back. You take them back. They're citizens in many cases of those countries, of France, Germany. They didn't want to take them back. I gave them one chance. I gave them another chance. I gave them a third chance, and I even gave them a fourth chance. They didn't want to take them back. Not that I blame them too much. They're used to this with the United States, taking advantage of the United States, whether it's on trade or NATO. You take advantage of the United States. But we think that maybe the Kurds will do a job, and if not the Kurds, we think Turkey will do a job. But we have thousands of people, thousands. I don't know if you know that. We have thousands of captured fighters and thousands and tens of thousands of family members. And
we did a big favor to a lot of countries, and those countries didn't want to take them back. So that's the way it goes.
What if some of these ISIS fighters escape and pose a threat elsewhere?
Well, they're going to be escaping to Europe. That's where they want to go. They want to go back to their homes, but Europe didn't want them from us. We could have given it to them. They could have had trials. They could have done whatever they wanted. But as usual, it's not reciprocal. You know my favorite word, reciprocal. That's all I want. I don't want an edge. I just want reciprocal. And it's not reciprocal, Steve. It's not a fair deal for the United States. And when President Obama took the PKK, you know, when they bring in PKK, that's a tough deal because that's been a mortal enemy of Turkey. So when you bring them into a partnership, it's a tough situation because it's tough for Turkey. It's probably tough for them. They've hated each other for many, many years, for hundreds of years. I mean, it's amazing when you look at history and you look at culture, but you look at the length of the time and the fighting for so long. So we imposed ourselves into it. And look, I've said it. I said it just yesterday. The single worst country, the United States, if you take a look at, you know, what we're doing with countries and the relationships we have with countries, but maybe putting it a different way, the worst mistake that the United States has ever made, in my opinion, was going into the Middle East. It's a quagmire. We are up to close to $8 trillion, and we're bringing our folks back home. We have great, talented military. We're bringing them back home. Our military has never been stronger, but we're now acting as police. We're policing areas. We're doing jobs that other countries should be doing. We're doing jobs, frankly, that Europe should be doing. We're doing jobs that Russia should be doing, that Iran should be doing, that Iraq, Turkey, Syria should be doing. They should be doing this. We shouldn't be doing it. We're 7,000 miles away.
Lindsey Graham is talking about imposing economic sanctions on Turkey over this incursion into Syria. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's okay. I've already told that to President Erdogan. Far more than sanctions. I'll do far more than sanctions. Lindsey and I'd feel differently. I think Lindsey would like to stay there for the next 200 years and maybe add a couple of 100,000 people every place. But I disagree with Lindsey on that. But I will tell you that I do agree on sanctions, but I actually think much tougher than sanctions if he doesn't do it in as humane a way as possible. But I've gotten him to stop for virtually from the first day that I was in office. But they've wanted to fight, and that's the way it is, and they've done it for so long. Yes, go ahead, please.
So what does this humane way as possible actually mean?
Well, we're going to have to see. We're going to have to define that as we go along. They want to, if you listen to Erdogan, he wants to have people go back to where they came from, go back to Syria. Right now, he's holding, in all fairness to him, he's holding millions of people. That would be all over the place if he wasn't holding them. So he wants to repatriate. He wants to have them go back into the area that he's looking at. But we'll see. We'll see how he does it. He can do it in a soft manner. He can do it in a very tough manner. And if he does it unfairly, he's going to pay a very big economic price.
Mr. President, you said with the letter that you sent up to Nancy Pelosi yesterday, you appeared to declare war on the impeachment inquiry. Can you tell us in your own words why you think it is incumbent upon the House to hold a full vote to authorize an inquiry? And if they were to hold a vote and it were to be positive, would you then cooperate with the inquiry?
Well, let me just say that the Republican Party and President, but the Republican Party has been treated extremely badly by the Democrats, very unfairly. Because they have a tiny margin in the House, they have eviscerated the rules. They don't give us any fair play. It's the most unfair situation people have seen. No lawyers, you can't have lawyers, you can't speak, you can't do anything. You virtually can't do anything. And then on top of it, they have a guy named Schiff. And Nancy Pelosi knows all this because she's just as guilty as he is. But you have a man named Schiff, where I had a perfect phone call with the president of Ukraine. I mean, perfect. People read it, but they don't read that. They heard Schiff's version of it. He defrauded the American public. He gave the most horrible rendition, adding his own words. I mean, Mark Meadows is here. I think I can say honestly, Mark, you didn't believe it when you heard it. And Mark's never heard anything like it. And many of the people that we work with, including Democrats, have never heard anything like it. He made up a phone call. He made it up. Because what happened is they spoke about a day too early. They heard a whistleblower who came out with a false story. You know, people say, oh, it was fairly close. It wasn't close at all. What the whistleblower said bore no relationship to what the call was. We have a transcribed call done by professionals. And the call was a perfect call. But Schiff made it up. Then it turns out that the whistleblower was in cahoots with Schiff. Then it turns out that the whistleblower...
Donald Trump there, onto the impeachment inquiry, but before that, Pete, talking about or justifying his decision, even though we have now seen a ground invasion from Turkey into Syria. Again, threatening intervention, but only on an economic level if Turkey, in his words, goes too far. Yeah,
and interestingly too, one of many quotes that he said there was the worst mistake that the US ever made was getting involved in the Middle East, which is something, well, these are the problems that are coming out of this now, is that we've said many times, wars are easy to get into, very difficult to get out of, and there are about 1,000 troops I think the US had in that particular region that he's moved on. So we will return to our top story now, which is that the Turkish president, who described it as an anti-terror operation, is acting just days after Donald Trump withdrew those US forces.
The streaks of artillery lit the sky of this border town, the Turkish army hitting Kurdish targets just inside Syria. The strikes began just after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. One of the first targets, Tal Abyad. Until Sunday, it was a Kurdish and US military observation post. Now the Americans have pulled out, allowing the Turks to demonstrate they are now taking control here, despite global calls for them to hold back. Pictures from another Syrian Kurdish town show the impact of the strikes. The Kurds claim there have been civilian casualties. There is no independent confirmation of that yet. Turkish jets have been in the air too. Without leaving Turkish airspace, they can still strike Kurdish targets on the other side. From positions in the Turkish town of Akçakle, we heard booms of artillery as they hit what Turkey says are YPG militia positions, the Kurdish fighters they've long wanted to destroy. But they are the same fighters who have, alongside the Americans and the British, been pivotal in fighting the Islamic State terror group. Turkish President Erdogan was briefed on the operation, and these images are designed to boost his popularity, a commander-in-chief and in charge. The people share their president's view that the Kurdish fighters are terrorists. And in an interview with Sky News just before his base was evacuated, a spokesman for the Kurdish fighters said the people here would voluntarily be human shields.
The people are already working and moving towards the border area in order to create a human shield against any Turkish invasion, and I think everyone is also working to prepare itself for any future operation.
And so a decision by Donald Trump at the weekend to move his troops out of the area has given space for his ally Turkey to attack his other ally, the Kurds. A new dangerous strand of the long, bloody Syrian war is now underway. Mark Stone, Sky News, on the Turkey-Syria border.